let's see if we can figure out what all these languages are, which one is most powerful for you. And again, I'll tell you how to figure that out if it's not immediately obvious for you. So we'll start by going through these 5 love languages, and then let's talk about how they apply also, not just in relationships that are love related relationships, but maybe with kids or with colleagues or with yourself. So, ready? Here we go. We're going to dive in. Love language number 1 is words of affirmation. Okay, so words of affirmation mean words that build up. So originally, the 5 Love Languages book is Christian based. You may or may not agree with that. I think you'll still find power in this, but there are a number of really great Bible verses quoted in here to talk about these things as well, but I'll also keep it more general. So, verbal compliments, words of appreciation, those are powerful communicators of love, and they are particularly powerful for the people who have this as their key love language. So, encouraging words, that means inspire courage in someone. Tell the person that you know they can do it and you know how amazing they are at whatever you're talking about. Give them some type of compliment, build them up. So it's not just saying, I love you. These are kind of active ways of using words. Now, love is also kind. So we want to use kind words and we want to use a kind tone. That's part of words of affirmation. So the way that we're speaking is really important as well. So a way of loving someone with words of affirmation is to affirm them, encourage them, be kind to them, be loving to them with words. Maybe even, and this one I liked a lot, giving indirect words of affirmation. So speaking in an encouraging, kind, loving way about your spouse or significant other with someone else. And I love what the book says about this, and that is when we say positive things about our spouse when he or she is not present, eventually someone will tell your spouse and you will get full credit for love. And how cool to hear that your significant other has been speaking kindly and building you up to other people. That is amazing. So, if your significant other's love language is words of affirmation, you can write them a love letter. Write nice notes on cards whenever you do a card. Compliment them. And it says set a goal to compliment them every day for a month. Can you imagine how great someone would feel if this is how they receive love? And so the idea behind these love languages is that one of the 5 that I'm going to talk about will be most impactful to each person. For me, it does actually happen to be words of affirmation. And the way I recognize that about myself is I know how powerful conversations are for me when my husband or my friends are saying something that builds me up and they're encouraging me to do something or they're complimenting me. And if this sounds like you, it's not because you're just desperate for compliments. That's not what it is. But is that the piece that sticks with you and feels so powerful versus the other 4 I'm going to describe? That's what I want you to be asking yourself as we go through this. Is it the words? Is it the notes? Is that what sticks with me and just uplifts me? Or is it one of the other 4 things? So have that question in your mind each time we talk about a love language, and you'll probably be able to get a good idea what yours is. All right, now love language number 2 is quality time. And so Gary Chapman, the original author, says quality time is about togetherness, but that does not mean just proximity. So Two people sitting in the same room are in close proximity, but they're not necessarily together. And I know you know what I mean. You could be not paying attention to each other at all. Togetherness has to do with focused attention. So for some of us, the act of spending focused time with that person is what communicates to them in the best and most powerful way, love. So, quality conversation is part of quality time. So, what do we mean by that? Sympathetic dialogue, I'm quoting, where two individuals are sharing their experiences, thoughts, feelings, and desires in a friendly, uninterrupted context. It also means we need to listen. If we're trying to communicate quality time, we're trying to communicate love via this quality time language, we need to be listening. So that means maintaining eye contact, not doing something else at the same time. Listen for feelings is an interesting one so that we can recognize that. Observe body language and don't interrupt, refuse to interrupt. And so it might be that there's a little bit of communication learning happening. If your significant other has quality time as their top love language, this is something you might need to practice. Maybe it's not yours. And that's the key to this. If you want to show love to someone, you want to learn how to show it in their main love language. Okay. So if you're trying to recognize yourself, maybe you're thinking back and you're thinking, what really made me so happy with my significant other? Was it the letter that I got or the conversation we had where he was encouraging me, he or she? Or was it the time we spent this weekend hanging out and chatting and just having a meal? So now we're thinking, is it words of affirmation or is it quality time? We're trying to kind of recognize that. Now, one idea to use if your partner's main love language is quality time is the minimum daily requirement to establish a time every day where each of you talk about three things that happened to you that day and how you feel about them. I love that. This could be activities that you do together that one or both of you enjoys. Ideally, if it's that person whose quality time is their love language, it's not an activity that just you enjoy. That maybe ought to be obvious. They need to be enjoying it. But the purpose is to experience something together and so that they can walk away from it feeling like they're cared about. My partner did something with me that I enjoy and did it with a positive attitude. And if that's what speaks love to you, then know that quality time is probably a top love language for you. So take a walk together, talk about the neighborhood. Maybe you're doing this somewhere that's meaningful for you. Have lunch as kind of an appointment with your spouse or your significant other. Ask them what activities they would enjoy doing together. Okay, so that's quality time. You might recognize yourself in that. You might not. Now, let me add another sort of caveat here. I don't think any of us dislike any of the five love languages, right? I don't think I'm going to say anything today where you're going to say, oh man, I hope nobody uses that love language on me because I hate that. These are all good things. What we're saying is, there's probably one that is the most powerful for you. And you don't have to know why. You just have to know, wow, yeah, when that happens, that just hits me right in the heart or the gut or whatever. That's recognizing your own. And maybe you've been married long enough or together long enough that you can recognize in the other person already as well. You know kind of how they react and you can tell maybe what one of their key love languages is also. Okay, so we've done words of affirmation and quality time. Now we're on to receiving gifts. Okay, so what is a gift? Again, I'm quoting Gary Chapman a little bit here. So a gift is something you can hold in your hand. And that a person whose top love language is receiving gifts is now thinking, wow, he was thinking of me or she remembered me. In order to give someone a gift, you're thinking of them. You have to be thinking of them. The gift is a symbol of that thought. And so people whose main love language is receiving gifts are not greedy people that just always want gifts. Those two don't go together anyway. I suppose they could be, but that is not what it is about. The act of receiving a gift communicates to these people that someone was thinking about them and loves them. That is the way they hear and understand that communication of love. So, if you are going to become an effective gift giver because someone in your life has receiving gifts as a top love language, you may have to change your attitude about money. And I'm going to link the money mindset episode in the show notes just in case you haven't heard that one, because that's possible. Let me also say, though, these are not necessarily expensive gifts. This is not some sort of contest where the way that you show your love is to give the most expensive gift. It's showing someone that you were thinking of them. And some people really understand and receive that when they receive a gift. Now, it's also true that there's an intangible gift that might even speak more loudly, and that is the gift of yourself or the gift of presence. So being there for them. And so think back your interactions with this other person that you're thinking of. And when was there a really meaningful interaction for you? When could you tell it was a really meaningful interaction for them? Did it have something to do with a gift? So this could maybe overlap within quality time a little bit, but usually there's going to be a tangible gift involved here. And so some suggestions, if you know that your significant other is really a receiving gifts person, try a parade of gifts. I thought this was cute, like a box of candy in the morning and flowers in the afternoon and a shirt in the evening or whatever. Make a gift. A handmade gift is cool. Or maybe for 1 week, have a special week where you're giving a gift every day. So just making it special in that way, because for some people, that is the number one way that they receive love and understand that they're loved. Okay. So we've done words of affirmation, we've done quality time, we've done receiving gifts. You might be recognizing yourself. You might be thinking maybe you recognize your significant other. Let's do number 4. Number 4 is acts of service. So there is a Bible verse that says, serve one another in love. And I think even in many religious traditions, there is this idea of serving each other with love. So we have to be a little bit careful in describing this love language. Here's what we really mean. We mean that for some people, if acts of service is their top main love language, they know and feel and receive and understand that they are loved when someone does something to help them. And it could be simple things like emptying the dishwasher. It could be more complex things that are a bigger undertaking. It is not about one person being subservient to the other person. So the book does go into a little bit of discussion here about stereotypes, because we know over the past, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, stereotypes of the man and the woman in a marriage, let's say, have changed, right? It's not like it used to be where the man does the work and the woman does everything else. And what has happened, though, is now there's a million different varieties of relationships that work for people. So this is not saying that the one person in the pair has to always be doing all the serving and all the tasks and waiting on the other one. It's saying when you want to show your love to someone who really receives love with acts of service, then do special things for them. Not because it's an obligation, but because you want to. So my husband's, one of his main love language is acts of service. So I try to remember that. And I try to do a few extra things when I can. And I could tell that that is a really good thing for me to be doing. So what are some examples? Here's an interesting thing to think about. Make a list of all the requests your spouse has made of you over the past few weeks, assuming your spouse is this acts of service type of love language person. Select one of these each week and do it as an expression of love. Give your spouse a love note accompanied by the act of service every 3 days for a month. Get the children to help you with some act of service for him or her. So it's meant to be a way that you are communicating love to someone. It's not a subservient thing. And if this is you and your top love language is acts of service, you're recognizing that when someone does something for you around the house, or when someone helps you out with an errand, or when someone just kind of goes above and beyond for you, it is so powerful. And you feel that so strongly. Acts of service might be your top love language. Okay, we're ready for number 5. So far, words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service. Number 5 is physical touch. So this could, of course, be sex in a relationship. It's not only that, though. And this is where we kind of want to think. It could be holding hands, it could be hugging, it could be kissing, it could be just putting your arm around their shoulders, rubbing their back. It could be kind of brushing up against someone as you pass them by. It could be sitting close on the couch when you're watching TV. So many ways that you can express love with physical touch. And if you are with someone who receives love this way, this is such an easy thing to do. Again, if it's not your main love language, you might have to train yourself a little bit. But if we're expressing love, we probably want to do that, right? We want to be able to do that for the other person. So, touch receptors are located throughout the body, which means, and I'm quoting, lovingly touching your spouse almost anywhere can be an expression of love. Some may mean more to your spouse than others, and you can learn from them. That's the key. So, if this is kind of feeling awkward, try little things. Put your hand on their shoulder as you pour a cup of coffee. Or, as I said, kind of rub against them as you pass them in the kitchen. Or just, put your hand on their shoulder and just squeeze a few times like a tiny, tiny mini massage. Sit close to each other. Try it and see what the reaction is. Hugs fall into this category. Now, I know there's research out there that says that we all need hugs. We all need physical touch. It is really important. It keeps us from going bananas. And some people, for them, it's of the most importance. So when some people get a hug, it is just that all consuming, body filling feeling that, wow, this person cares about me. And of course, hug can be friendly relationship, it can be family, it can be spouse, partner, all different things, but that would fall into this. So, ideas. What can you do if you can tell that your significant other probably has physical touch as their top love language? Well, reach out and hold their hand when you're walking. When they come home, meet them and give them a big hug. Do a shoulder massage or a foot massage or something like that. Just start these little things and see what happens. And maybe now that we know these 5 love languages, maybe there's a little experimental period where you're trying to figure out what is the top one for your significant other. Now, typically, there's a primary love language that we all have, one of these 5. And then there's probably a couple of others that are really speaking to you as well. So for me, words of affirmation is my primary love language. Receiving gifts speaks to me as well. And I love all the other ones, of course. So again, nobody typically doesn't like some of these. I suppose that could be true. It's just a question of which one is most powerful for each individual, because that is the best way to express love or express appreciation. Okay. So, just to take it back to kind of a little bit of brain science, psychologists have observed that our basic needs, and if you've ever seen the hierarchy of needs from Maslow, are security, self-worth, and significance. We need security at the bottom of that need pyramid. We need self-worth, and then we want to be significant. When we get up to the top, that's like our highest level need. So what that means is at the very base, you need security to even get to any of those other things. So love is a piece of all of those. And being able to communicate with someone who's important in your life with their top love language is going to help them feel more secure. And it is going to help them feel worthy because they're going to feel good. They're going to know they're loved. When we know we're loved by someone else, it does boost our self-esteem. And it's going to help them feel significant because they'll know they're significant in your life as well. So this just feeds through all of that. Now, if you're thinking, well, maybe I recognize myself, I'm not totally sure, I have good news for you. There is a website, the number 5, lovelanguages.com, where you can go and you can figure out your love language. And I would suggest that you do that. I do think this is such powerful knowledge. Let's take our last few minutes and let's think about relationships besides spouse or partner relationships. And there are books about this too. You can dig in if this is feeling very, very interesting to you. What about with kids? If you think about your kids and you kind of rewind and go back through the 5 languages I described, can you tell that they really respond to you expressing your love in one of these ways? Is it hugs? Is it notes? Is it gifts? Is it quality time? Is it doing something for them in an act of service? There's probably a primary love language that they really, really receive love in. And if you know it, you can do it more.